Welcome to Heal the World Show podcast, brought to you by the Healing Institute. We are an online, worldwide hub of holistic practitioners, and we are out to help people with their healing and their health. We really want to make an impact on healing and health in the world. And I'm so very delighted to be able to talk to you today. And this week actually is Men's Health Week. And June, I decided that our theme for June was going to be Men's Health Month. So I've just been having so much fun talking and interviewing these different men and healers and coaches for this month of June. And also we're, coming up to Father's Day, I guess on Sunday. It's actually considered Men's Health Month. So how did this all come about? Well, the Healing Institute, I really was my vision to create that because of a tragedy that we had in our family a few years ago, where my mom passed away at a very young age, and it was due to complications of a medication that she had been on for a long time. And so she died on the 15th of December. It was right before Christmas. I was 5 months pregnant with my son, my first child. And not only was it a tragedy that she died at a young age, but my children never got to meet their grandmother. And I really don't want that happening for other families because we know how important family is. So our holistic practitioners are all they find what the root cause is that's going on with people. We don't just look at symptoms. And as the Healing Institute, we are a wellness community. So we get to know each other. We're not just a wellness directory, we are a community. So all the practitioners get to know each other. We all get to know what we do and how we can serve other people. And as well, then when people come to us, our clients come to us, we can refer the clients to all of the practitioners. So that's how we differentiate ourselves from other wellness directories. And this week, I'm so happy to be able to have two wonderful gentlemen on the podcast. Jean-Luc Allaire. Jean-Luc is in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And James Kauanu, I hope I'm saying the last name correctly, from Sedona, Arizona. One of my favorite spots. I haven't been there yet, but it's on my bucket list. So welcome, gentlemen. Wonderful to have you both on the podcast today.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
James, let's start with you. Give us a little background of your how you got to your Hawaiian healing. I know you are from Hawaii originally, and how that all came about.
I'm going to start with my name, Permelia.
Okay, great.
Hawaiian is very phonetic. So if you look at a Hawaiian word and you break out the syllables, it becomes pretty easy. So my last name is Kauai Nui. So aloha
Hawaii
everyone.
Nui. Okay, I got it.
My name is James Kauai Nui. I'm a native Hawaiian healer. I come from a lineage that goes back many, many, many generations in Hawaii. It's not, I will say this, and I'll start out by saying this is not something that I have done all my life. It came to me 25 years ago. I had my first clairaudient experience, and I was working as a corporate executive in a very large company, and I didn't realize how miserable I was at my job. And one evening after work, I had something happen where a hand came and I felt a hand tap me in the back of the head, and I heard a voice that said, "It's time to go home." So I walked into my boss's office the next day and I quit my job and I moved back to Hawaii. And that was 25 years ago. And so this journey that I've been on is this journey of understanding how we are connected in the world physically and in the spiritual world. And also about how Hawaiians have this deep understanding of energy and how energy moves.
Mhm, mhm.
Part of the work that I do with people is about helping them see how the energy is moving or not moving in their bodies. And by having very somatic experiences of the energy and where it is. And so part of what I do is help people become very present inside of themselves. So that we can look at the trauma and the patterns and the behaviors and
Yes.
really the choices that we've made, because in this is my humble opinion, when we start taking responsibility for all the choices that we've made in our lives, that's when we actually start to create change. So
Yes. Yeah.
in, in a very condensed version, I would say that's some of the work and how the work that I do. So I have clients all over the world, and I've been doing remote healing sessions for the past 6 years. And I came into that only because we all have a team, right? So it's
Yes.
between the team and the committee, right? So the team
Right.
is your etheric connection. The committee is the naysayer voices that are in your head, right? So the team said, you need to be doing sessions online remotely. And he said, you have to remember that your community is global, not local. And so it brought me onto this path. So I do most of my work, in fact, almost all of it, through connections that I do through Zoom.
I love that. I love that. And, similarly, when I was creating what I thought was going to be a space here where I live on Vancouver Island, 5 years ago, or 6 years ago now, just before the pandemic hit, that's what I was looking at. And then when we got all locked down in 2020, I started meeting amazing practitioners like yourselves on these networking platforms, these online networking platforms. And I got the same message. Okay, you're not going to have a building on Vancouver Island. You're actually going to do something more global, because really that is what's needed, and the route that you're going to go. So that was part of how the Healing Institute was also created. And I do feel like I was divinely led to do it that way versus just a local building where I live, in the city where I live. So thank you
It's
for that.
interesting
Yes.
it's interesting how that happens, right? That we all get similar messages in that way. That kind of proves that we're all connected.
We're all definitely, most definitely connected. Jean-Luc, welcome to the conversation. So
Thank you.
let us know a little bit about what you're doing as I love your Passionate Life program. I know you do coaching. And yeah, tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, this is Eva. Everybody on Zoom knows Eva. She can see monitors, can see people.
She's beautiful.
Know what's coming. Her sister doesn't care about this, but her, she'd always check it out. So everybody knows Eva. She's 9 years old now, and she's very curious. And she's my Velcro, right? So basically, I was always around religion or spirituality. I'll keep it short, but in my 20s, after bankruptcy and a lot of problems, I became a master Reiki, and then I learned a lot about managing your thoughts, power to words, and all kinds of stuff like this. So then I moved across Canada to Alberta and started working in the construction world, right? And I became a construction manager. So anybody that knows about Canadian French people, they know that we were known for our bad temper. So there was a lot of work to be done. I grew up, my father, there were 9 brothers. They were all tough guys, woodcutters and hunters. So at 13 years old, I had a chainsaw in my hand. And if you cut your arm off, you had to go get it sewn back on and get back to work. So that was the mentality, right? There was no place for emotions and stuff. You just got to make it, you had to be tough. So it's a hard thing to clean up. So I spent my whole life fixing a lot of these limiting belief. And 8 years ago, I was a construction manager. I did very well for myself, but I went through the cancer adventure. So learning all the stuff I've learned, emotional healing and all stuff, I used it all. The doctors did not understand. There was a bladder tumor, bladder cancer, and they wanted to remove it. And I won't repeat the words I said, but it was a no. It's about, because I did death doula, I help people cross over. I had no fear of death, so I made the right decision. But I know it's quality before quantity. And I proved to myself that all the things I had learned were working. I worked with a doctor. I didn't work against it, because a lot of people thought to work against the medical, but I didn't. I used everything else with it. And 8 years later, they still don't understand. There's no trace of radiation. There's no trace of anything.
Well, I'm so glad that you said that, because I really truly believe our allopathic medical model that we've had for the last 50 years, and now the holistic medical model, which we've had probably longer, but only it's been accepted by Western medicine or Western community for a number of years. I really truly believe those have to work together. We
They
can't,
do,
you
right?
know,
Some people say, oh, the old days were better. Well, in 1900, the average age was 33 years old.
yeah, yeah.
So if
So
you made
not
it to
better.
34, you were like, whoa, you're old. So we have to work it together. And then I proved to myself that everything was working. So I decided to retire from construction and start teaching stuff and helping people find their passion and find their true purpose and help heal everything that's behind. So I created a couple of classes. Now I have an 8-week Passion Light program to find your passion, to find your purpose, and learn all these tools that I talk about to be able to create the life of your dream and resilience and all these things.
Well, and I truly believe that's so important for us to have that purpose, to know what that purpose is. And sometimes we don't know what that purpose is. I remember when I was a mom with young children, I thought my purpose was just being a good wife and being a good mother. I didn't realize I could have my own inner purpose until I met a young woman who wrote a book about purpose. And I was reading it and I got this aha about, oh, there's other things. It's not just tangible things as a purpose. There's actually, intangible spiritual things that we can do as having our own true purpose as to why we showed up here, why we're in this incarnation at this point in time in our life. So that is so very important for us. And I can tell all three of us have kind of had that journey to discover who we were. So today we're talking about men's health because that is one of the things that I've found that men don't talk about their health very much, or they don't consider it. So what would you say, James, would be the most important thing, or not some of the most important things that as a spiritual counselor and guide that you would recommend for men to look after their health?
I will tell you about my personal experience that happened last year,
Yes, please do. Yes.
Towards all of this. So I had a health scare as well last year, and was hospitalized multiple times and came close to calling it quits. And thank goodness I didn't, and I'm still here. But there were things that I learned about myself inside of that. And the big ones were looking at where the resistance was in my life. That was one big one, because I was in resistance to a lot of things. And if I had kept held on to my resistance, and my wife was a little bit more stubborn, that hadn't been a little bit more stubborn than I was, I probably wouldn't be here, because she was the one that finally pushed me to go to the emergency room to check and see what was going on. So first piece was the stubbornness and the resistance that I had. And then the second piece that I learned during the course of my illness and my recovery was that asking for help was really, really, really important. And so I actually I had two things that came out of that. One is being okay asking for help. And then the other part was receiving that help, because it was so tough, because and being a healing practitioner, right? I wanted to do all this on my own, and then realizing that I couldn't do this all on my own. And so it's kind of the same thing as men. I think we muscle through so many things. John Luke kind of alluded to that already in what he was talking about, so not muscling through anything. And I have to say that it was a humbling experience of real, I mean, there were physically things that I could not do. And so being able to ask for help and receive that help was a very powerful gift. And so if I was going to condense that all into this, I would say, get over yourself.
And ask for help.
And ask for help.
It seems to be a pattern. I know my husband doesn't ask for help.
Stop being so darn stubborn.
Yeah, stop being so darn stubborn. I'll often, he'll never tell me if he's got an ache or a pain, or he's not, I can kind of sometimes see it, and I'm like,
Yeah, it is. I always cringe when I hear men say, "Oh, I haven't been to the doctor in 20 years or 30 years." I'm thinking, "Oh my God, it's like really."
That's not good. That's not
No.
something to be proud of.
So one thing when I work with my client, I'm a gym guy and I do Spartan races and I tell people you don't have to do that. You don't have to be a gym person. You don't have to be a yoga master. You don't have to be a runner. But we talk about what can you do. You got to move. You got to change a bit of your eating habits. You got to. There's things you can do without becoming like crazy. To me, I have to go in the morning. I go to the gym like almost 5, 6 times a week, and that's because it helps me because I sit all day, right? So it's very important. When I was construction, it was not as important. Now it is for me because I cannot exercise at home, but I'm ready for it. Like today, we're gonna go move a teepee today, and then tomorrow we're doing a sweat lodge, and I help with different things. So I want to be healthy. So to me, that's important. But what is important to them, and that's where we have to do something, right? Because a lot of old school, they I work all day, I'm tired, and they have the man cave. This is the worst thing, right? They have either beer or greasy food, and we learn. So I knew a lot of this before my cancer, but after cancer, the research, I took all the alcohol out. I will drink a beer or once in a while, a wine a little bit, but the food, you learn a lot more about the food, your body, what it reacts to, whatever. And it becomes so important, especially like, after cancer, the research, I did even deeper research than I had before, how everything affects your body. Everybody's different. Like, why is this guy so skinny eating all he wants? Well, it's not you, right? I look at a cake and gain 2 pounds. Just by looking at the cake, I'll gain 2 pounds, right? No, you can eat the cake and not gain weight. I can't. I just look at it and it's like, oh my God, the saliva alone gives me. So it's important to know where you stand, where you're at.
Yes.
You get that big belly, it's the worst because it pushes on your organ. And to have the talk, you need to know your numbers. You need to know your blood pressure. You need to know your cholesterol level. You need to know your sugar level. And if they're fine, fine. It's not defined by being skinny or bigger because skinny people sometimes have more issues because they don't pay attention. Oh, I'm skinny, I'm fine. No, you still can have high cholesterol. You can still have arteries that are plugged because I have friends who are runners, skinny, and they had heart attacks.
Yeah.
Lucky for
Yeah.
them, they got better. They got fixed, right? And that's important to be followed by doctors. That's the biggest thing, to get checked. What can you do to get moving? Sometimes just walking, a daily
Yeah.
walk every day and a couple of stretch, it'll make a big difference. You don't have to be gym or runner or like the yoga. I had a girlfriend at 5 o'clock in the morning. She get up, she do yoga, and look at it. It's like, no, thank you. It's like, I'll still enjoy.
I have a yoga routine, but it's pretty early in the morning because that's the only time I have to actually start my day with my yoga. But yeah, there is definitely we have to move, and I'm sure it's how I'm not sure how cold it gets in Sedona, James, in the wintertime, but it gets pretty cold here in Canada, where Jean-Luc lives. He gets lots of snow, and where I live on the West Coast, we get lots of rain. So it's not always conducive to be outside. And one of the things that I love to do in the summertime, which is what we have now, is walk and get my walks in. So that's walking to the beach. It's about a 20-minute, 30-minute walk to the beach from where I live. And we have beautiful beaches here on Vancouver Island. So yeah, it's definitely worth making that moving and incorporating that as part of your daily routine to stay healthy. So yeah, definitely what you both gentlemen have said about asking for help. James?
I was just going to say I agree with Jean-Luc because my wife and I have had a personal trainer for 8 years now, and we meet with her 3 times a week. And it's really interesting because with my clients, a lot of my clients, I actually refer them to her for that very reason of creating more, and as we get older, as men get older, having flexibility and mobility, they said that the number one thing as we get older, which I found very interesting, they said your mobility and flexibility is determined by how good your balance is. And so she works a lot with us on balance, on creating balance so that you can, because to balance on one leg or anything else, you know, you
Right.
actually have to, there's a lot of muscles that engage inside of that.
Yes.
So part of that working out that Jean-Luc's talking about is part of that actually is adding that piece inside of it as well. So
And the balance also helps with our cognition. So, you know, our equilibrium and our cognition is very, very important. And especially as we are aging, because, you know, one of the things that I was always concerned about or wondered, like, how come now there's so much, so many people you hear about that have Alzheimer's, or, you know, and have mental illness and, or losing their memory. I don't remember hearing about that when I was younger, you know, growing up. And maybe it was just I was in a bubble. But now we know more about the science behind the gut-brain correlation. And because, you know, we have had so much processed food in our life over the last 30 to 50 years, it kind of makes sense now that people that are now aging are having memory loss issues because they haven't been eating healthy. So yeah, definitely important for that to happen.
both really, you know, I mean, and it really comes into that whole piece because it's the holistic piece inside of
Yes.
this, right? Then you
Yeah.
look at and both Jean-Luc, but actually all three of us, right? We're constantly looking at the spiritual aspect of what where we are inside of ourselves, right? Am I present? Am I looking at my stress? Am I looking at my life in a healthy way where there's I have safe self-inquiry, right?
Yes.
And that's another piece inside of men's health, I think, is that place of being, and it's bravery.
It is bravery.
Being
Yeah.
brave enough to be able to ask those deep questions and
Mhm.
brave enough to look at what the answers may be and brave enough to admit some things about ourselves that we may not want to.
And it doesn't make you less manly.
Oh, absolutely, man. In some ways, my wife says you get more sexy when
Exactly.
you look at
Doesn't
those
make you
things.
less manly at all.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're getting to the end of our half hour, but this is all good. This is great conversation. So James, people that want to work with you, we've got your information in the chat, which I will also share. And so, give us just maybe one of your clients that has worked with you and what the results were.
Hey, story about a man that I just talked to yesterday,
Okay, great.
because we were talking about letting go and surrender. And as we were talking about that, and one of the people that we were sitting with said, let go, let God, right?
Yes.
And there was something that happened for him, and what he did was he broke down, because he was a Vietnam vet, and he said that around guilt,
Mm-hmm.
and he killed people, right? And in sitting inside of him with him, we found a place where the emotion was, but more importantly, it was helping him understand that the choices that he made back then does not make him the person that he is now.
Today.
And that when we're put in situations like that, especially when they're life and death,
Mm-hmm.
we made choices in the moment based on the information that we had. And once he understood that and he was able to let go of it, he sent me this beautiful email this morning and said, I woke up for the first time in 57 years not feeling guilty about being a Vietnam vet.
Beautiful.
And
Beautiful.
so that's one of the ways that I work with people, is having those kinds of deep awarenesses with them about where they are, and being able to come to some kind of closure about things that may have happened in their past.
Yeah, I love that. Jean-Luc, give us a little taste of one of the clients that you've worked with and the results that they've had.
Oh, I wouldn't know which, I got a lot of testimonial, but a lot of things comes out, like when they find their passions, it's like it just open time. And when they try power the word and stuff and things that happen that is out of the blue impossible. And that's why I called him. I said the wand that the Harry Potter wand, like you're magic now, you know how to use your power. And I had so many stories, but the biggest thing comes out is the peace that it brings them, no more victim. And the you know where you're going, you got this 10-year vision, all areas of your life, and it creates resilience. So it doesn't matter what kind of storm you're going through. That's why I have the anchor on my poster here. You anchor in the future. So when you're going through real bad time, like real storms of life, you know, like when I went through cancer, my physical, it was hard. Don't get me wrong. The physical was hard, but the mental never swayed because I knew where I was going. But yeah, I'd come home and have to lay down on the couch, and it's like, because the physical was hard, but not knowing. So you create that resilience. Yeah, I'm going through a storm. Let's keep going, right? Let's keep going. And that's, you create that resilience by knowing where you're going, understanding that I'm working my plan and trusting in everything. So, yeah, I got way too many I work with people.
Just giving people the tools as well, like both of you have mentioned that, giving people actual tools to use so that they can feel better about themselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. That's so important because we don't often have, or we don't know we have the tools.
Yeah.
But we definitely do.
So it's tool that have been proven by I had to prove to myself first when I talk
Yes.
about my adventure. I had to prove that to me, and then people, the testimony I got, it proved to them that it works. It's proven techniques, proven everything that I've done. I love it when they see the light come on and I get those testimonials. Like, it's so great.
We're in the
Yes.
business of empowering people. We really
Yes, that's
Right.
correct. Yeah,
Lack of power.
I do, as you know, I do the body code work, and oftentimes I'll have a client say to me, well, you did this. And I'm like, actually, no, I didn't. You did it.
Yeah, we did it.
I just help facilitate it happening. So that's the magic. That's what certainly what keeps us all doing what we're doing, because it's beautiful to be able to help people see the other side.
I love your
gentlemen.
one, Jean-Luc.
This is fabulous. So, we, as the Healing Institute, we just want you to know that we have health experts and practitioners, and we customize everybody's whatever you need. It's not a one size fits all. So whatever the specific client needs, we will put that together for them from a holistic point of view. Our motto is service with love. We totally believe in that 100%. And we have a big ask for those of you who are watching the podcast or listening to it later. Please let your community know. Let your family and your colleagues and your communities, let them know about the Healing Institute. Let them know that we have these amazing practitioners that are here and they are available for you to assist you on your health journey. Because let's face it, we're all on a health journey. So we want to make it as positive and proactive as possible. So thank you again, both James and Jean-Luc. And we look forward to talking to you next week on Heal the World Show podcast.
Thank you, Parmelia.
Thank you, Vermelia.
Mm-hmm.